My girlfriend looked me in the eyes and said, "I'm not leaving. I just think we should stop being so serious. Don't make this a bigger deal than it is." I didn't say anything back. I just looked at her. The way you look at a contract clause that changes everything. Once, carefully, then you close the folder. I said, "Okay." She exhaled, like she'd been holding that breath for days. Then I put my phone face down and went back to my book. 3 days later, she texted me 11 times before noon. That one sentence quietly dismantled everything she thought she had built. I was 31. Contract law. For years with this woman. 4 years of showing up. On time, on word, on purpose. She was unpredictable. I told myself that was energy. That it balanced me out. I was wrong. What I was actually doing was absorbing her chaos, so she never had to feel the weight of it. Every canceled plan, I rescheduled. Every emotional spiral, I stabilized. Every financial gap, I quietly filled. She was in a transitional period for 2.5 years. I counted. I said nothing. I told myself patience was love. It is. But patience with no floor isn't love. It's a slow transfer of power. The moment it ended wasn't dramatic. It never is. The real breaking points always arrive dressed like a Tuesday. We were at dinner. A dinner I planned, booked, and paid for. She set her fork down, looked at me, and said, "I've been thinking. I feel like we've gotten too serious too fast. I think we should pull back a little. Be more casual." I said, "What does casual mean to you?" She said, "Like seeing each other when it feels right. Less expectations." I said, "Which expectations specifically?" She paused. "Like talking about the future so much. Meeting families more. That kind of thing." I nodded. "No anger. I want to be precise about that." What I felt wasn't anger. It was recognition. Clean, cold recognition. Like when a clause you suspected finally appears on the page in plain language. She didn't want less pressure. She wanted a trapdoor. She wanted the comfort, the consistency, the quiet financial cushion, the emotional availability, with an exit she could use whenever she needed air. Serious on my schedule, casual on hers. I understood completely. I said, "That makes sense." She reached across the table and touched my hand. Relieved, almost smiling. I let her. We finished dinner. I paid. I drove her home. I kissed her goodnight. I drove back. I sat in my parking garage for 4 minutes, not spiraling, just letting the clarity settle like sediment. Then I went inside and I started making decisions. Not from hurt, from information. She had just told me exactly what she valued. The only respectful response was to believe her. The next morning, I canceled the hotel reservation for her birthday trip. 3 weeks out. Still inside the cancellation window. Full refund. I had booked it 6 weeks in advance. That's the kind of person I am. I removed her from the shared calendar I had built when we first started syncing schedules. That calendar had her sister's birthday, her dentist appointments, her work deadlines, things she mentioned in passing that I quietly entered so she'd never miss them. She didn't know I was doing it. She thought those reminders just appeared. They stopped appearing. I canceled the grocery subscription. $46 a month. Recurring delivery to her apartment, milk, coffee, the specific yogurt she ate every morning. She never asked me to set it up. I just noticed she was always running out. I canceled it on a Wednesday. Her delivery was due Thursday. She texted me Thursday afternoon. "Did something happen with the groceries?" I said, "I canceled it. We're being more casual, so I figured I'd stop managing your household things." She said, "That's a bit dramatic." I said, "Is it?" I thought less pressure meant less pressure. She didn't respond for 3 hours. I called my bank. Removed her from the secondary card I had added her to 8 months prior. Quietly, because her credit score didn't qualify her for her own $5,000 limit. Gone. Not cruelty. Arithmetic. You add someone to an account, you can remove them. It's your account. Then I called her building manager. I had been co-signing her lease for 2 years. She didn't qualify a loan. The renewal was 6 weeks out. I sent a written notice, professional, documented, time-stamped, that I would not be co-signing the renewal. 6 weeks notice. More than legally required. Every line above board. I didn't tell her. She spent the next week texting normally, making plans, sending voice notes, asking if I wanted to come over Friday. I responded warmly. I wasn't cold. I wasn't punishing her. I was simply no longer building. I had stopped adding. The existing structure was going to show itself in its own time. It took 9 days for the first crack. the grocery delivery, then the calendar reminders stopping, then small things she couldn't name but could feel. She started texting more, calling more, showing up more. People who say they want less seriousness still want access. She showed up on a Friday, and she was off, recalibrating, looking at me like she was trying to locate something that had shifted. She touched my arm 4 times in an hour. She stayed 2 hours later than usual. She helped clean up, something she had never once done. I noticed everything. I said nothing. When she left, she held the kiss longer than usual. I closed the door. I thought, she knows. She doesn't know what she knows yet. But she knows. The building manager called her 16 days after my notice. She called me within 4 minutes. What did you do? I said. I informed them I wouldn't be co-signing. We talked about simplifying. That commitment made sense to revisit. Silence. Long silence. Then, that's my apartment. I said, I know. You have 6 weeks. You can qualify independently, find a new co-signer, or make other arrangements. I gave proper notice. Everything is in writing. She said, Are you serious right now? I said, I'm being exactly as serious as you asked me to be. She hung up, called back twice in 20 minutes. I didn't answer. I texted, I'm at work. I'm not avoiding you. Let's talk tonight. She arrived that evening with the energy of someone who had rehearsed. She had talking points. She sat across from me, not beside me, across, and she launched. She said I was retaliating. She said I was punishing her for being honest. She said she had opened up about her needs, and I had weaponized that vulnerability. Those were her exact words. Weaponized. Vulnerability. I let her finish. I said, You decided the nature of our relationship and announced it to me. I decided the scope of my commitments and adjusted them. Those are the same action. Which specific thing did I do wrong? She said, You didn't talk to me first. I said, You didn't talk to me before telling me to be less serious. You informed me. I informed you back. That's the same category of move. Silence. She changed angles. Her friends thought I was being manipulative. A normal person would have communicated. Real relationships don't look like this. I said, Your friends are welcome to co-sign your lease. She flinched. She tried once more. Said she hadn't meant it the way I took it. Said she was overwhelmed. Said she still wanted us. Said she loved me. I said, I know you do. I'm not questioning that. She said, Then what do you want? I said, What I've always wanted. A relationship that is what it says it is. Not serious when it's convenient and casual when you need a door. She cried. Real tears. I want to be honest about this. Not performance. She was genuinely scared. I didn't move toward her, and I didn't move away. I stayed exactly where I was. She said, You're not going to comfort me? I said, I'm not going to let tears change what the facts are. She looked at me for a long time. The anger was gone. Something quieter had replaced it. Something that looked a lot like understanding. She said, softly, When did you become like this? I said, I've always been exactly like this. You just didn't think it would apply to you. That landed. I watched it land. She looked down at her hands and sat quietly for almost a full minute. No argument. No comeback. Then she asked, without looking up, Is there a way back? I said, Back to what? She said, To how we were. I said, How we were produced this moment. There's only forward. And forward requires both of us to be honest about what we actually want. She left without the argument she came with. She left quietly. That was how I knew she finally understood. The lease situation resolved. She called her mother. Her mother co-signed. It worked out. It was uncomfortable and urgent and required effort, but it worked. She was capable the whole time. She just had never been required to find out. The card was already gone before any confrontation. No scene. It just stopped being there. Some absences announced themselves. Some are only discovered weeks later. The birthday trip was a refund and a closed tab. My life in the weeks after was quieter. Not empty. Quieter. Empty has a sound. Quiet is the absence of friction. I cooked without accounting for her preferences. I made plans without calculating her schedule. I slept through the night without the low-grade alertness of being someone's permanent anchor. I missed her. I'll say that plainly, because performing indifference all the way to the end would be dishonest. I missed the Sunday mornings, 2 people, different books, the same room, not talking. I missed her laugh at things that weren't that funny. I missed having a person, but I did not miss the arrangement she had proposed. The casual, exit-ready, accountability-free version. That specific thing I did not miss at all. What I missed was not her. What I missed was the future I had quietly built in my mind around her, a shape of life that existed nowhere except my own imagination. That is what grief actually is. Not the person, the future, the version of tomorrow you already believed in. Releasing that took longer than any other part. That is the honest answer. 3 weeks later, she sent one message. No drama. No argument. I think I asked for something I didn't actually want. I was scared and I handled it badly. I don't expect anything from this. I just wanted you to know. I read it twice. Then I wrote back. I appreciate you saying that. Take care of yourself. That was the last real message between us. Here is what I know now, stated plainly. She was not a bad person. She misjudged. She saw that I was steady and assumed I was immovable. She saw that I never escalated and assumed I had no edge. She mistook calm for compliant. Many people make this mistake. Steady people attract it. We become the safe place for other people's instability, and after enough time, they stop seeing the floor. They assume the foundation will absorb anything. There is always a floor. The people who discover it before they reach it, those are the people worth building something with. The ones who discover it by falling are not villains. They are simply late. The most important data you will ever receive from someone is how they define your relationship in an ordinary, calm, low-stakes moment. Not in the beginning when everything is effortless. Not when they're trying to win you back. In the middle, when they think everything is stable and the relationship can absorb anything. That is the truth. That is the unguarded version of who they are. Believe it. Immediately. Without exception. I chose myself not out of anger. Not out of pride. Out of respect for her honesty and for my own time. She told me what she valued. I listened. That is not betrayal. That is the only sane response to truth. The quiet after a hard decision doesn't feel like winning. It doesn't feel like losing. It feels like putting down something heavy that you carried so long you forgot it had weight. Now here is the question I want to leave you with, and I want you to sit with it honestly, not as a judgment, but as a mirror. If the person holding everything together in your relationship simply stopped, not with anger, not with an ultimatum, just quietly removed their hands from the scaffolding, would what's left still stand? And if it wouldn't, what does that tell you about what you've actually been building? Most people never have to answer that question. The person doing the holding never lets go long enough to make it real. When they finally do, you find out very quickly what the other person was actually there for. That answer is the only thing that was ever worth knowing.